We shift our focus to this story now. South Africa's informal settlements are littered by plastic pollution. Afesis-corplan's Mduduzi Ntongana says it's become a common sight to witness plastic waste and toxins piling up in makeshift dumping sites and contaminating nearby streams. He joins us this evening to talk about the harsh reality of plastic pollution in South Africa's informal settlements. Mr. Ntongana, good evening and thank you very much for your time. You wrote a very important article, and I'd say a well-timed one, because politicians are making commitments to address a number of issues that citizens are plagued with currently. So it's important that the conditions of those living in informal settlements are also brought to the table and politicians can then offer solutions. You say the polluted waterways and streets cluttered with uncollected garbage is an environmental injustice. Talk to us about this.
Yes, good evening to you and good evening to the listeners. I think it's to bring to the forefront the issues that are particularly plague residents in informal settlements, especially at a critical time like this. We say this as Afesis and ourselves from the research that we have done and in communicating with informal settlements residents across the Eastern Cape, that the waste and rethinking the initiatives of waste in our system when it comes to informal settlements is ill-equipped to deal with the waste that is generated in those settlements. So I'll use this example. Informal settlements in South Africa currently face a disparity where the waste collection services that are offered in suburban areas don't actually make their way to areas in informal settlements. They go without plastic, the black plastic bags to collect their waste. They go without refuse collection for months and months, and some don't even have the opportunity to have those services. So as a result, the waste ends up in those streams and ends up uncollected in the streets.
Mm-hmm. And how has the lack of waste management affected their health and even mental well-being? Because it surely is difficult to just walk around and rubbish is strewn all over the streets.
Definitely. I think this has a huge impact. When speaking to the actual constitution, it's in section 24 that everyone has a right to an environmental that is not harmful to their health and that is not harmful to their well-being. And it also speaks to the right to their dignity under section 10, that these are inhumane conditions that they are living in. And what you find is that kids in their play areas, that in areas where it's going to be open space where children can play around those areas, they get respiratory problems. Mm-hmm. And you find that kids get health issues that end up having to be dealt with at the hospital. So this becomes a big crisis overall for individuals that are in informal settlements. And as a result of burning their waste in certain instances or the toxins being piled up in the streets, this becomes very, very detrimental to the environment, but also to their health as well.
That was actually the question I wanted to pose around how they dispose of this waste then. Do they perhaps burn it, or what other means do they use to dispose of it?
Yeah, currently in areas where there's access to basic services of waste collection, what they currently do right now is either leave it in separate places which are predominantly located a bit far away from their shacks, so in a main area, but this is left uncollected. In certain instances, they resort to burning it. And unfortunately, the last option is to leave it dumped in an area which will be the streams or your open places where you find the makeshift dumping sites, which grow and grow to a large extent, where you see it even in a far distance, you can see the makeshift dumping site.
Now, we know Buffalo City Municipality has implemented the Buyback Center strategy, which is somewhat meant to stimulate the recycling of plastic in communities and provide some sort of a livelihood opportunity for a livelihood for local recyclers. Do these initiatives actually help?
In some part, they do help. It's been a much welcome livelihood opportunities for certain waste pickers who use this opportunity, this livelihood opportunity to recycle some of the waste and plastic that is collected in certain areas. But the big issue is that in the actual informal settlement, where the targeted campaign of cleaning up is needed in the streams where these dumping sites are happening at a large rate, and where the areas where people feel like the service of waste collection is not happening, these are the areas that desperately need certain cleaning up campaigns and need the access to basic services. Overall, the people that do collect waste go in suburban areas to collect this waste. And even in the buyback centers, it's usually in the townships, but in areas where it doesn't actually target informal settlements and the actual townships to a large extent, where it actually makes a significant difference in the waste management system that is occurring there.
What would you like to see government do in the immediate?
In the immediate term, I think for us, and what has been called for by organizations such as WWF or UN Habitat, is that there's a conscious and deliberate effort to bring in these services such as waste collection to be in central areas in informal settlement and townships. It doesn't need to be a whole elaborate plan. It just needs what the informal settlement residents have called for and have been asking for are big waste bins, which are called skip bins. So the waste can be located and put in areas where it can be centrally collected by the waste management system, by the refuse collection. So having access to this service would be of utmost importance to them. And I think it's upon local municipalities and local councillors in these areas to ensure that informal settlements and townships have access to refuse collection on a consistent basis.
Mr. Ntongana, thank you very much for your time this evening. That's Afesis-corplan's Mduduzi Ntongana speaking to us.